We have this story from the Post-Millennial. Van Jones laments the decline of mainstream media, says Dems don't understand it. Well, let's hear it from his own mouth.
In the Philly suburbs. And I'm telling you, we are way off. The entire political class is way off. First of all, digital is a new door knocking. You got to understand that. We were laughing our butts off at Donald Trump for suspending his door knocking campaign and letting Charlie Kirk and Elon do a bunch of stuff online. We said, these guys are idiots. These guys are stupid. Then you start knocking on these doors. You know what people come to the door with? Their phone in their hand.
He just figured
this
out.
They're in a 24-hour digital surround sound that has nothing to do with CNN, has nothing to do with any stuff that we do. I asked my son, I got a teenage son, I asked him, who are the most influential people in the world today? I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z. He says, Kai Cent, Aiden Ross, Jinxie, and Sketch. I don't know who he's talking about. I said, what platforms are you on? He goes, I'm on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. I said, that sounds like you need to go to the hospital. What are these platforms? I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream.
Yep.
There are platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news getting 1 or 2 million.
And that's a lie, because they are not.
Because they're,
And so
they're not
there's
getting
a
that.
whole world out there. Kellyanne Conway, I hate to agree with her, but I do a lot
Why?
of times. Donald Trump understood that, and we didn't. And that's not just Democrats that don't. The entire political class is way off, way off, way off.
And that's the end of the clip. But, he is right. The mainstream has become fringe. Now, I ask all of you watching at home, do you think that after watching this, they're just going to sit by and go, guess we lose? Or are they going to say, the New York Times, like how much money, how many subscribers the New York Times has, Libby, have? Do you know?
I don't know.
But they make a lot of money.
Yeah, they do.
Comcast, Disney, MSNBC, they're being spun off. But these big corporations have resources to spare. They absolutely are going to come into the space. They're going to start producing for YouTube. They're going to have marketing.
11 million.
11 million subscribers?
Yeah.
Wow. They're going to, and what is it, like $10 a month or something?
Yeah, something like that. But you know what's interesting? Almost 11 million. No, 11.09 million subscribers. 10.47 million of those are digital only.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these companies, they're going to come to the digital space and they're going to start going to these liberal personalities and say, we're going to give you $10 million a year to license your show. And we're going to put $20 million in marketing. We're going to put up billboards in every city. You will be ubiquitous and you will say what you are told to say. And they're going to go, deal, boss, whatever you say. And then these authentic podcasters will drown you out. When they put $20 million in marketing and then go to YouTube and say, look, this is the biggest channel. It's got 10 million subs. It's the biggest news channel. Stop promoting these other ones. Do a home bar that features the existing channels that you know are safe, that advertisers are happy with, and you're never going to have to worry about an adpocalypse again. And YouTube says, you got it, boss. You know, I know they're going to do it because YouTube did it several years ago. They propped up CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News and downranked all the independent podcasts. They will gladly do it again when MSNBC, who pays Rachel Maddow $25 million, MSNBC is going to say, we have carriage fees for now. Where do we go in 3 years with our ratings being zero? Okay, let's take those carriage fees. Tell YouTube we want to be on YouTube TV. Pay us there. We'll give it to you at a premium. You know, we'll let you keep some of the money as long as you feature us and promote us.
YouTube TV just raised their price to $82 per month too. I saw something like that, which I didn't even know. Like, I don't even know what's on YouTube TV.
It's cable. It's everything.
It's everything that's so. If you,
it's got every channel basically.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't
know. Look, it's like cable TV. So we have YouTube TV. So when we put on the news, it's through YouTube TV.
Okay.
And I can pull up any channel I would normally watch. They got everything as far as I can tell. You have to pay extra if you want like HBO and all that stuff.
Extra on top of the $82.
Of course, that's how it's always
been. Insane.
But that's the same as cable. Cable, $70 a month, and if you want HBO, it's $15 a month extra as a premium subscription. So they're doing the exact same thing, but it's digital now. I mean, then you've got Dish Direct. All of the cable companies are turning into subscriber services that bundle all of these channels. The weird thing about it, though, is like, I don't know that we need channels when we have video on demand.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of stuff. I'll be like, oh, I want to watch, whatever, something that came out 15 years ago, and I'll go watch that.
Yeah. AI is going to end media. Like we are so close to it being over. I don't think people really
You mean
understand.
in terms of storytelling?
Yeah. I keep hearing from people, they're like, nah, AI will never capture that great storytelling that humans get. And it's like, no. You are wrong. You are wrong. We are a couple of years away from procedurally generated movies that hit.
Well, sure. I mean, you just give it a formula. Once you know the formula and you can crack that, then you can do any story.
This is how Netflix made House of Cards.
Mm-hmm.
They noticed that they had a really high viewership on political thrillers and Kevin Spacey movies and said, let's make a political thriller with Kevin Spacey.
Well, and then they also ripped off the British version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were basically like, we looked at our data and saw what people liked, and we're going to make this. Mm-hmm. Imagine what happens when AI, where we are right now with AI is already crazy. The Grok image generator is, for the first time, you can AI generate pictures of Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
And I know it seems silly, but it was actually difficult to do. You'd go to all these different AIs and it would give you this weird looking, mixed race woman, and it wouldn't really get Kamala. Now the Grok AI nails it. These AI videos that are coming out are getting better and better. A year or two from now, it's going to be indecipherable to the average person. Potentially a year or two from now, because of the exponential increase, it is going to be outright full-on procedurally generated movies where I'm going to type in or just voice to text, movie AI, give me a superhero movie where Spider-Man has to team up with Phil Labonte of All That Remains to take down Rhino, and Rhino's wreaking havoc in New York City, and make it compelling and put in a good love interest. And it'll just rendering.
How long ago was the Will Smith eating spaghetti video, AI video?
That 2 years ago?
Was that 2 years, 24 months maybe?
And it was just like weird and gross.
Yeah. And I remember we were talking, everyone was kind of wowed by that. It was like, wow, look at it move. It's still weird, but man, and everyone is saying, look, the next thing is going to be crazy. And nowadays, you can generate incredibly crazy stuff that looks absolutely real. I don't know the website or what I think it was an Instagram account.
There's a bunch of websites.
Well, there was an Instagram account that makes these real weird, creepy ones. A lot of times they're using eggs or things that flow, and but the textures were what was really the most remarkable. Is the textures on smoke, the textures on, again, like eggs, and like there's kind of like flowing people that kind of, and but it wasn't like it wasn't this fever dream kind of thing. The textures were very, very realistic. It was to the point where you were like, okay, that's on par with any kind of practical makeup that I've ever seen made in computer generated. So,
but anyway, I digress. Imagine what happens too when this comes into the podcast space. I've already talked to people in news who have said they are generating an AI likeness that can be fed a script and produce a video podcast of a person that looks normal, looks like any other video podcast.
Well, maybe the Democrats won't need to do their big plan. They have this big plan to try and combat Turning Point USA. They want to create their own Turning Point so that they can get their own Rogan, because they lost their old Rogan.
It's not going to...
Because it was Rogan. And yeah, it's very funny. But so they were talking about, in the New York Times, they were like talking to all of these, influencers and creators on the left who were saying, we weren't even getting any money until the last couple of months of the campaign. Nobody was paying us. And it's like, nobody was paying those meme guys in 2016. Yeah. Those guys all had day jobs and then were doing this stuff because it was their passion.
They're going to do it, because I can tell you guys right now, if you have the money, you can own the space. And it's not like it's so simple you can snap your fingers and do it, but there is an amount of money to get a channel as big or bigger than Rogan. The question is, do you want to pay it? Well, for a while, nobody did, because they didn't care about this space.
What do you mean? You just buy the channel? No,
you can just pay in marketing and easily build up a channel. You can make it so that it's a combination of so an outsider. If you've got $20 million, you can relatively easily get a 5 million subscriber channel and get hundreds of thousands of videos of views per video. You do need good talent. You can't just be some random moron. So easily what they do is they'll go on YouTube. They'll say, this channel's got 117,000 followers. Let's bring them in, refine them, give them the marketing, pump them up, put $20 million behind them, billboards, every city. Then we're going to plant stories in the press. We will make this person matter. We will make them bigger than Rogan, and they can do it. They just haven't bothered with it because they thought TV was still, cable was king. They thought they still owned it.
They were with Van Jones over here.
Right. He's shocked by it.
Yeah, he's stunned.
Now, a lot of these networks understand that YouTube is growing. They have a presence on YouTube. They can see those numbers. It's not that they're stupid. It's that it's really simple. They're going, we make $50 million on TV with carriage fees and everything else, and we make $40 million on YouTube. So we're going to prioritize TV. Then this year it went and switched. Now they're going to say, okay, that's it. Our TV venture is not going to be surviving for the next year or two. Our priority has got to be building up in this podcast space. So we're going to need authentic sounding individuals who are going to fall in line and do as they're told. Disney and all these big companies are going to come in. And you may say, yeah, but Timcast IRL is a good show, right? It's authentic with real people. And that's why I watch it. They will get close enough with their weird, fake acting schools and training. But where we cannot compete is they're going to put $20 million behind their people, not because they want to make money, because they want to own the influence space. YouTube is subsidized. Google pays money to control this media outlet, this media space, despite it costing them money. Do you think the Democratic Party establishment, the neocons and the neolibs are going to sit back and just not do that? Or do you think they're going to be like, we have billions of dollars under our control to spare? Or how about the deep state? Do you think untoward elements are going to sit back and just be like, I guess we lose control of the narrative? These next couple of years are going to get crazy, and don't be surprised if by 2026, you're going to see a Rachel Maddow type with 17 million subscribers on YouTube, getting 3 million views per podcast with segments. They're going to be making 70 to 80 million. YouTube's going to prop them up with some backroom deal. They're going to be fed deep state lines where they go, did you see how CNN rescued that prisoner? Wow. Here's the thing. On this show, we show you the video of CNN rescuing the prisoner. And we question it because it looks really fake. But what did CNN do? Now, CNN showed it to you, right? But and they're assuming most people will just believe it. But what you're going to end up having happen is these video podcasts won't even show you the clip. They're all just going to say, yeah, I saw that was crazy. They'll all talk to each other. The listener will believe it to be true, never having actually seen the video. And then it will become truth to them. And if at any point you come out and say, did you watch the video? It looked fake. They're going to go, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And that will be YouTube. That will be the biggest players on the board, and they will own that narrative. And that's how they're going to try and reclaim the institutional power.
I mean,
well, they're already working on it. They've been announcing it. They announced
Indeed,
it in the New York
been.
Times. Yeah.
Indeed.
I mean, there is. I think that it's fairly clear that there will be some kind of effort being put in by the establishment to get the get after the podcast space, but the idea that they lost Joe, they say things like, we need to get our own Joe Rogan. Everyone knows they had their own Joe Rogan. What they need to do is actually referencing what we were talking about earlier, is they need to have the fight in the Democrat Party and get rid of the people that are canceling people for trying for discussing ideas that are off limits. The problem the Democrats have, the reason why
that's the same problem.
What's that?
That's the same problem.
Articulate that. What do you mean?
You're saying the Democrats need to get rid of the people that are canceling people, and they need their own Joe Rogan. It's the same problem.
No, that's what I'm saying.
When they fund a massive podcast, who then dictates the Democrat, dogma, all those people will fall in line in 2 seconds. The problem is the far left element gets their information from the internet, and the moderate corporate libs get their information from the TV. Once they unify their narrative machine in YouTube, they fall in line like a cult.
I don't think the far left does that. I think that the far left
get their information from the internet.
No, I mean, I don't think they fall in line. I think that they would be fighting, because there are currently, because of the fact that there's a civil war, that indicates that they don't just fall in line.
Yeah, they do.
The far left?
They're simultaneously anti-big healthcare, but pro-big pharma. They're simultaneously anti-military industrial complex, but pro-war in Ukraine. They will do whatever they're told to do. The issue is the far left is younger, and they're getting their information from the internet. Even when it's contradictory, they fall in line. Hassan Piker is a great example. The dude's dumb as a box of rocks. Yes. He complains about the military-industrial complex and then supports the military-industrial complex in Ukraine. It makes no sense.
I'm not sure what his take on the war in Ukraine. I think that
he supports
it. And if he does, the reason that he does is because he sees Ukraine as being oppressed by Russia. Russia's an oligarchy, or
I think you're giving him way too much credit.
I think that the power dynamics on the Marxist power dynamics are very simple to understand. You don't have to be smart to understand them.
If
that were the
case, they'd be on Israel's side because all of these Arabic nations with massive wealth are
because
surrounding
Israel, they see Israel and the U.S. as the same thing. They look at the U.S. as, because the U.S. backs Israel. They say that the U.S. is the big power.
Except for the fact that what you're basically saying is they choose when to apply oppression dynamics or not to.
What do you mean? Go ahead.
Israel is a state the size of New Jersey, surrounded by a whole bunch of massively powerful and wealthy Arabic nations that want to destroy it. Of course, I understand that the U.S. is funding Israel massively as well, and it's aligned with the United States. They could choose to go either direction in the narrative. Ukraine is funded by NATO. So they're choosing to ignore the Western influence in Ukraine, but they're demanding we reference the Western influence in Israel.
They're against the Israeli Palestinian conflict. They don't look at the other countries supporting. They look at Palestine. They look at Gaza, and they say that the Israelis are committing a genocide against the Palestinians.
Right. I think you're projecting logic onto an illogical group of cultists.
I don't.
These are people who spell women with an X, with an I, and with a Y. There is no unification. When they simultaneous's a group called the Coalition for Communities of Color that says Slavic people are people of color despite having white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. There was this big fiasco a couple years ago that we made fun of, where they said women should be spelled with an X, WOMXN, which then they said it's inclusive of all women, which resulted in a backlash where they said this means you're saying trans women need a special qualifier. You can't do that. None of it made sense. There is no making sense in, we are angry with these healthcare companies. The CEOs are bad. Everybody should be mandated to take a big pharmaceutical drug. Big pharma is your friend.
Well, I mean, you can make the same argument about why they would support like the Soviet Union, which was very authoritarian and obviously it's a communist country.
Oppressive.
Yeah, but the narrative that they believed about the Soviet Union was the Soviet Union was fighting against the United States and the US.
So we'll break down what wokeness means. I hear this all the time, especially with this debate from the classical liberal types who I consider to be moral cowards over what the woke right is. And, they've been saying Tucker Carlson is woke right. And it's like, no, you are completely wrong. Ben Shapiro gave a definition of wokeness. And I can't remember exactly how he defined it, but I also disagree with him. I believe he's wrong. The reason why is because when you look at all of the cultural instances over the past 10 years where woke has been applied, what you typically see is not that someone is trans. It is not that someone is gay. It is not that someone believes that there is racism or there should or should not be taxes or they're for or against a certain war. It's when they apply cult-like adherence to the liberal social order. Whatever the narrative is of the liberal machine, you must follow whether it makes sense or does not. So that's why when the Jaguar commercial came out, Jaguar, and it shows
like that too sometimes.
Yeah, it's fun. And it shows all these people with weird clothes. A bunch of people said, that's woke. And it's like, now why were they saying that? Because for a while, it wasn't that these people are non-binary, trans, or whatever, but it's similar to it. Wokeness was an authoritarian element. What people complained as woke was this ham-fisted, over-the-top. Here's an example. Nobody called Baldur's Gate 3 woke because you could make a male character with female genitals. There was no outcry. There were no articles because it wasn't a component of the game. It was in the character creation. You could literally make a female character with a male voice who used he, him pronouns. And some people laughed at the idea that you could, but it wasn't part of the story. Then Dragon Age comes out, and there's a scene where she goes, "Oi, I accidentally misgendered you. Better pull above." And then she starts doing push-ups for 2 minutes. They're breaking down and explaining why using that's woke. It is telling people with cult-like fervor to adhere to their orthodoxy. So when Blair White comes on a show and talks about these things, no one calls Blair woke despite being trans. Yet when these gender activists come out and say you should be fired from your job, people would refer to that as woke. The overarching element of what wokeness was the cult-like adherence to the liberal social orthodoxy.
That's because the meaning of the word woke, or where it comes from, is to have awoken a critical consciousness and being awake to a secret knowledge. And that's where woke comes from. So
What does red pilled?
Well, red pill's not so much. I mean, I guess
Same thing.
I guess it's similar in the close. I'm not so sure that red pill does.
The red pill wakes you up.
It does, but the red pill, it's not this. Maybe it is. Maybe
This is the issue I take
you
with
might actually be right with that.
these classical liberals who are coming out saying Tucker Carlson's woke right, is that they're taking this thin selection of an authoritarian collectivist ideology and saying that's what woke is. And it's like, that doesn't explain why they're pro-war in Ukraine. That doesn't explain why they were pro-lockdowns. The logic of oppressor and oppressor does not apply to half the things that they did. So if they're saying the oppressed are bad, then they should be cheering for the small businesses that got shut down during the New York lockdowns. No, they were all in favor of the lockdowns.
The small businesses are property owners.
And the government and Walmart, I should say the Walmarts that were supported, they didn't care about. They didn't go out and protest that Walmart was allowed to stay open and sell, and they didn't do anything to defend the small businesses being oppressed by Walmart.
But they had no problem smashing up Walmarts or stealing from Walmarts.
But the point is, and they didn't. During the riots in New York, they certainly smashed things up. And Target got hit up in Minnesota, but that's immaterial to the whole argument of what they were willing or not willing to support. They would demand you wore a mask. They would demand you got vaccinated. They would demand the government lock you down. They would not defend the little guy whose life was being destroyed. They would cheer when the police came to arrest small business owners. That is the government and the state and the police. It makes no sense that the BLM protesters of this ideology celebrated when the police went to a man's home and arrested him. If the application was it's critical theory, the reality is it is cult-like adherence to liberal social orthodoxy. If it is of our idea, it is to be protected. If it is of our order, it is to be demanded. So they can simultaneously say the healthcare industry is broken and the CEOs did it, and then turn around and go, you should be mandated by force to buy a product from the big pharmaceutical companies and be mandated to take that drug. They can simultaneously say the military-industrial complex is evil and is destroying the world. They are white colonizers and oppressors. And we are very happy that they're spending all this money in Ukraine and fighting this war.
Did you see the bipartisan bill that Josh Hawley and Elizabeth Warren put together? They want to force insurance companies to split from their pharmacies, which I think is actually really smart. I don't think insurance companies and pharmacies should be the same company because obviously that's a conflict of interest. It's a huge conflict of interest. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's interesting. I hope that it actually goes through. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too that it is bipartisan and it's two people who are pretty diametrically opposed in terms of being, you know, pretty conservative and pretty leftist, Liz Warren and Josh Hawley, and that they could agree on something like this. I mean, I think that's
Well,
pretty
Elizabeth
interesting.
Warren said this is a warning. When
No, she sure did, and that's what I mean.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.